Hi everyone, it's Karen here and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back again. Today I have a Winter Wonderland Shadowbox Canvas tutorial using the new 7 Dot Studio Northern Lights collection and many different mixed media products from both Prima, Finnabair and Tim Holtz. All the products and links are listed below in the description area. I will guide you step by step, so just sit down, relax, and enjoy the process. This shadow box is actually not a canvas. It is actually an upcycled packaging from the Tim Holtz stamp platform. And all I did is, after removing all the packaging, I ended up keeping the box because I knew I wanted to create some kind of shadow box scenery. And creating the Winter Wonderland scenery was the perfect idea. As soon as I saw the Northern Lights collection from 7 Dot Studio, I realized that I wanted to create this Winter Wonderland background. So I took a couple of the papers, knitted and frayed knot, and cut them out to size. The knitted paper was cut to fit inside the box, and it looks like Northern Lights, which is really beautiful, and I wanted that as my background, and I cut it to size inside the box itself. I used some soft matte gel medium to glue it inside the box, and then using a credit card I just pushed the edges to release the glue so it wouldn't create any bubbles. The frayed knot paper was used to cover the outside of the frame. I cut strips to fit the outside of the frame, both top, the bottom, and on the sides, because I really wanted to cover the cardboard box. I didn't want that to show at all. So I measured the sizes of all the edges, and then I cut them and glued them around, both on the outside, on the inside, and at the top. I picked this paper specifically because it had stars, and I really wanted the star theme to go on the outside, as it matched perfectly with the idea of having it look as if it's the middle of the night on a very nice and snowy scenery. Once I was done gluing the papers, I went ahead and gave the background a light coat of clear gesso. This is the Prima Finnabair clear gesso, because I really wanted to protect the paper. I really wasn't sure where I was going with the project, and I wanted to make sure that it's protected from any mediums that I may add. Now, when I've made Winter Wonderland sceneries in the past, I've always loved using cheesecloth. I find cheesecloth gives it a beautiful snowy texture, and it's the perfect product to use. And it's so cheap, and you can find it basically in any store. So what I did is I took a big piece of cheesecloth and bunched it up and used it to glue in the background. I used it to glue at the bottom of my shadow box because I wanted it to make it look like snow. I bought these amazing trees from Tim Holtz. These are the woodland tree lots, and they look like little brushes shaped onto a Christmas tree. And I knew they were the perfect trees for this project. I've actually had this project in mind for a long time. And I knew that I wanted to create something with the colors from the Northern Lights. So I took my Christmas trees, which are these brushes, and had a little helper help me spray them on my craft mat. And I knew I wanted them kind of purple and blue, so I had her, which her meaning my daughter, spray them for me. She had so much fun doing this. She usually doesn't take any interest in crafts because she just doesn't have the patience, but she does love getting messy and spraying things. So every once in a while she asks me to spray, and this really made a big mess, but it was so much fun for her. As you can see, her hands are getting super dirty, and my mat and everything around the whole desk was super dirty, but she had so much fun. It was so much worth it to have her and incorporate her love into this project. So I had her spray all 3 trees, and then I had them dry. She really liked these trees, so she originally had kept one for herself, and she took it and she asked me if she could spray it before she even sprayed these ones. And I said, yeah, go ahead, here, take whichever color you want. And she sprayed them, and when she had sprayed them, they looked so good that I figured, you know what, let's do the same thing for my trees that I need for my project. So here she is spraying with the Cobalt Blue Color Bloom spray from Prima, and also with the Sugar Plum, which is a purplish color. But the main color that she used was the Cobalt Blue, and it kind of overpowered everything and made a huge puddle in the middle of my desk. And it was just so much fun for her that I couldn't stop her, even though she was really staining everything all around. But the fact that she actually wanted to get involved was just such a happy moment for me that I really want her to be included in this project. And she was so happy that she could actually do something to help. So I'm not cutting out this part of the video because I really want you to see how much fun she's having, and really maybe encourage you to have just as much fun by watching her enjoying herself. Then there was so much leftover ink on the desk that I told her to grab a couple of the papers and just smoosh them onto the ink to create some blue backgrounds that I could use later on for cards. So although this has nothing to do with the project, I just wanted to show you that you shouldn't waste any of the products that you use. Whenever you have sprays all over, you can just use cardstock or watercolor paper and just go ahead and just use that ink to create backgrounds. I recently did a video regarding this nice technique where you can use leftover ink from your desk. So this is a great thing, and I will link that below so you can see what I mean by that. But she had so much fun, and I made her show you her hands because they were just so much fun to see. I let the trees dry really well, and then I went ahead and placed them in between the cheesecloth. I used again the gel medium to just glue them to the bottom and to the back to make sure they were placed in the places that I wanted them to be. Once the trees were in place, I wanted to add some other elements, and I found a little deer. This is a Prima resin called Woodland Friends, and I just wanted to place the beautiful deer in the middle of my scenery. This is actually an old resin, so I don't know if I'll be able to find the product and link it. However, you could use any type of chipboard shaped deer or anything else that you can find on eBay or on Amazon. I'll try to see if I find it, and if not, just be ingenious and use whatever you think for the background. I apologize for the next part because somehow my camera did not videotape adding snow to the trees and to the background. So what I did is I actually took some snow texture from Prima Finnabair, and using a paintbrush I dipped it onto the snow texture and added some of it to the trees and around the edges of the whole shadow box. And unfortunately you can't see this, but I just basically dipped a paintbrush and just added it to the different areas. I also realized I wanted the deer to stand out more, so I took a little lid out of one of my packages and I just put it underneath the cheesecloth so it would hide that lid but would raise that deer all the way up. I wanted to find something that was white, and I tried some cardboard and it didn't work, so then I went ahead with the lid and just put it in behind the deer, and that helped bring that deer all the way to the surface. To give some more snow-like texture, I took the Prima Finnabair art stones and added it to the background. I love these mega stones as they really look amazing in any project and they give a beautiful texture. And I always use this technique. I can't get enough of it. And what I do is I take some soft matte gel, dip it with my paintbrush, and then dip my paintbrush directly into the jar of the art stones. That way it grabs some of them and I can directly put them in the spot that I want to. So I just added a bunch of those stones in different areas to just make it look like the scenery had snow in it. Then I took the regular art stones and just added them in between the mega art stones to just fill in the spaces and make it look as if there's different sizes of snow. To create the moon and the stars, I took Tim Holtz Sizzix die cut, crescent moon and stars, and used one of the 6x6 papers from the Northern Lights collection and cut out a moon and a few of the stars. Then I took some of the Tim Holtz Distress Oxide inks in both the Vintage Photo and the Seedless Preserves. And then using a blending tool, I just went around the edges of the moon and each of the stars to create a little bit of a border and distressing them on each of the edges. These colors helped everything tie in to the colors of the background. Then I used the same colors to blend them around the edges of my shadow box to tie in all the colors to the Northern Lights background. Finally, I used some Prima Finnabair soft matte gel to glue the moon and the stars to the background. I also added a few small reindeer chipboard that are part of the Northern Lights collection from 7 Dot Studio, and I glued them again using the soft matte gel medium. These were really sweet as they were perfect for this winter wonderland scenery. Now this is the place where I wish I would have stopped and not add anything else. However, the mixed media person in me feels that always needs to add some wet medium onto my projects. So I felt like I wanted to make this a little bit more vintage looking, to have that vintage feel to this Scandinavian kind of scenery, but I just didn't know what to do, and I decided to take some alcohol inks and add that really nice distressed look to the background. So I took the butterscotch color first and I added it around the edges of my canvas and on some of the textured art stones. Then I went ahead and did the same thing with the teakwood alcohol ink because it's a little bit darker and gives that really nice burnt effect to the background. And I actually really liked how it turned out. I really liked that effect of the vintage feel that it gave to the edges of my canvas. But what I didn't like is the way the butterscotch color had gone in between the snow-like art stones, because it looked very yellowish and it started giving me the impression that the snow was dirty yellow. And I don't need to depict what that means, but I just started thinking that it looked really gross and that it shouldn't be that color. So I didn't know what to do at this point because I just didn't like it that it was so orangey yellow on those areas. I did like that it was orangey yellow on the edges, but not there. So I went ahead and added some white gesso to hide those areas as much as I could. I mean, white gesso is really a savior, and this is one of the things I wanted to show you in this video, that even when you make mistakes, you can really fix them by using gesso. White gesso and black gesso are really saviors for everything. And this white gesso really saved the situation because I started adding it and covering the areas that I didn't like. And at the end, I was really happy with the way it turned out because I did get that vintage feel and I also got that snow-like texture. So it was a best of both worlds, but I really should have not added it to begin with. So I did end up using the white gesso not only to cover the areas, but I added it a little bit on the trees to add a little bit more of that snow-like feel to the edges of the trees, to the leaves. And then I just continued covering all the areas that I wanted to lighten up to make sure that you can see more of the snow texture than the actual alcohol ink, because it was just too dark for this background. Finally, the last thing I did is I added some more of the cheesecloth, not only to cover the yellow a little bit, but also because the art stones were heavy enough that they pushed the other cheesecloth down to the bottom of my shadow box, and I really wanted it to look fluffy. So what I did is I added a little bit more cheesecloth, but let some of the art stones peek through the cheesecloth to make it look really wintry. I also added a small little sentiment at the bottom of the shadow box, which is part of the word stickers from the Northern Lights collection, and it says "Believe in Magic." Thank you so much for watching. If you liked my video, please give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends. For more inspiration, subscribe to my channel and visit me on my website so you can sign up to my newsletter. Thank you so much and have an amazing day. Bye!